All right, welcome back to the SKTLs Weekly Call. It's your three amigos this week. We have Cody Willard, hedge fund manager, Bryce Smith, hedge fund analyst, and myself, the Cabana Man, as your co-host, I guess, with these three, because any one of these guys can host this show.
As we have
Don't tell them, I might get kicked off. But
no, Cabana, you're too much fun.
But we're down a couple of troopers this week. Of course, Sanatsi is not here. The most humble brain we have on our staff, I would say.
That is correct.
And then, of course, our Dan the Man, and I don't say the man lightly. The knowledgeable. What else can you say about the guy? How was your conversation last week, by the way?
Dan has been like a CEO. Oh, it was a good call. Missed you last week. But yeah, Dan last week led, as usual, Dan Geraci, chairman of the Planetary Society, CEO of Freefall Space. It's amazing what a font of information he is, not just about space, but even finance. He ran Fidelity's mutual fund group or whatever, something for years. And, you can talk stocks, you can talk, pretty much anything to him. And he can go through it with you. What I thought we might do today is since
we're short, let's talk some news.
Let's actually go through news on the stuff today. Let's see if I can figure out space news. Share.
Boom.
Start the top. What do you think?
Arctic broadband satellites, eh?
Yeah, it's interesting, Bryce. What's that? What's the link that we were on last week that shows the space?
It's in the chat. I don't remember the exact link.
That Starlink live.
Yeah, satellite-map.space.
There it is. I see it. Satellite-map.space. So if you'll notice on here, Starlink has almost, no satellite coverage over the North Arctic or the South. And you can see the rest of the world is clearly blanketed and becoming ever more so all the time. And the reason why is there's just, like no business up here. There's no people, very few people, except for scientists and stuff. And
what about the Northern Canadians?
And there's really not that many Northern Canadians either, is there? I mean, you're talking maybe a few 100,000 people.
What about Alaska? What's Alaska look like?
You see it right there. Let's see.
No, you can't see it there.
No, it's not very covered.
There it is.
Interesting.
But even when you zoom in, like if you just zoom in on New Mexico or Texas, there's really not that many satellites directly over us. And it gives you an idea of I think you probably only need, 4 or 5 satellites to service millions of people.
No, Bryce, that's not true. The satellites
look at New Mexico.
They have, there's only a certain amount of bandwidth that each satellite can provide. And if you have more than a few hundred people, even a few thousand people maybe on at the same moment streaming Netflix or something, nobody will get good reception. So they've got to have at least
zoom in on Texas and look how many right over the state of Texas.
Well, it doesn't have to be right over is the reason why. It works, trying to zoom in there. I'm figuring this thing out. Here we go. No.
You scroll.
Yeah. Yeah. You still need a handful, and it's not like they have millions of customers in Texas. They have 2 million people that are across the globe, 2 million customers, let's call it, companies and corporations and government entities. And they've got 6,000? Is that the latest number or so? Number of satellites?
5,000, I think, yeah.
So, 2 million, 6,000. And one of the things a few months ago, on the same note, I saw a few articles explaining why Starlink would never be able to have 1 million subscribers at the same time, because then you wouldn't be able to have bandwidth for everybody. 100 megabytes or whatever per second or whatever their goal is. And what's, most people are not live streaming YouTube and Zoom videos and everything all at the same time. So it's not like everybody uses 100 megabits per second all at the same time. When that does happen, you end up with, denial of service kind of stuff because the servers, or in this case, the servers in those satellites, the routers in those satellites can't quite handle it. Anyway, it is interesting. So let's go back to the news and see what it was talking about here with this. Where'd you see that? Arctic broadband satellites complete key tests. So, Space Norway. Yeah, apparently Norway does not have probably very good bandwidth on that same thing we were just looking at. 2 satellites is sort of funny, though, when in the context of Starlink having 6,000. Anyway, yeah, that's always interesting to see the growth of the satellites constellations that's happening, and to see these other companies, countries, governments, etc., trying to compete against Starlink in this. This is always interesting too when you see satellite imagery on other countries having problems that they don't report. Going back to what was the Russian nuclear explosion several years ago?
Chernobyl?
Thank you. Couldn't think of it.
Chernobyl. A few years ago. Yeah, like when I was a kid.
Yeah.
A few decades ago.
Yeah. But same thing, right? Like they didn't want to tell anybody, and there started to be sensors finding radioactivity in Europe all of a sudden, and then they got satellite imagery, and they're like, "Oh, something's going on, and Russia doesn't want us to know." Imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the world today. Of course, you can even make fake satellite imagery on ChatGPT. Hey, let's do this. Here, I want to switch this over to ChatGPT, and let's type in create an image that shows a nuclear facility in China blowing up.
It won't do that.
I bet it won't, right, Bryce?
No. We'll see.
We'll see. It's amazing how there are filters on ChatGPT, and most of the time they're reasonably, they're like, hey, we don't want you to like create fake propaganda images or porn or things like that. Yeah, see, that's make it a satellite image. Look like a satellite, an image from a satellite. Photograph. Doing it, Bryce. Shockingly.
Let's see.
Yeah. Earnings out after hours. Snow up 8%. CRM.
What? Let's go.
Up about 5-6%. Who else is out?
Says Pure Storage is down 14%.
Ooh, that CEO's about to go on CNBC, I believe. Yeah, should have been long puts on Pure Storage and long calls. I've got a few calls on Snowflake. Nothing. I've got a few puts on CRM as a hedge, but those aren't going to work tomorrow.
I think Kramer has Salute Man on tonight.
Yeah.
One more try here. And now we're going to go to
That's a satellite image. That's what I was thinking that we would get there.
I'll try it one more time. I'm going to upload this image. Make this image look even more shocking. Oh, wait, I copied it, didn't I? Control V. There we go. Yep. Nice. All right. Well, anyway, it's always interesting to see satellite imagery of other countries that don't want you to know that they've had problems. We continue to see more and more companies trying to compete in the launch industry. Rocket Lab should be back up launching. When's the next launch, Bryce? You know, next couple of weeks?
I don't know if they've actually scheduled one. They're able to launch.
Yeah, they're now the FAA gave them permission to do so again after their recent blow up. But Firefly is another startup that's trying to get up into space. You've got Relativity that seems to not. They've slowed it down a little bit lately, trying not to. They're trying to get a much bigger ship in the works than the one that they tested a few months ago that didn't quite get to orbit, but did a pretty good job.
Looks like December 13th, potentially, for Rocket Lab. The moon
What are they
god,
launching?
The Moon God Awakens.
It's a great
They
name.
are launching a satellite for a Japan-based Earth imaging company, Kyushu.
Here are the space companies that can launch. Rocket Lab, we just mentioned. SpaceX, obviously, by far the leader. They've done 10 already this month. Last I checked 2 or 3 days ago. And the next closest competitor would be Rocket Lab, which has done 9 launches this entire year. United Launch Alliance is a partnership between Boeing and Lockheed Martin, and it costs about $2 billion to do a single launch, and they're way behind schedule. And they're sort of like, say, the GM of launch. SpaceX is the Tesla of launch. ULA is the GM. Lots of promises, spending lots of money, lots of hype, not delivering anything that anybody wants. Relativity, thank you for laughing, Bryce. Relativity Space, who I mentioned earlier. Firefly, we just saw the headlines. Blue Origin had a big blow up in one of their launches about 6, 8, maybe 9 months ago at this point, and they've just put the clamps down on things and seem to be recalibrating what their company is doing at this point, frankly. Virgin Galactic, not a real launch company. They can get you to the edge of space for 9 seconds if you want to spend $300,000 and come down to New Mexico. Ariane Space, European, doing some stuff. Interorbital Systems, still around. Astrospace went on its way going bankrupt. Too many failed launches. I don't know Armadillo. I bet Dan would tell you all about Armadillo.
Which countries can launch? Like Russia, France, maybe? China, Japan.
Yeah, a few months ago, I did an article where I highlighted all of the countries that can launch. Make a matrix of countries that have launch capabilities. As of April 23. Russia, US, China, Europe, India, Japan, Israel, Iran, North Korea, South Korea, Brazil, France, and a lot of countries then that can't. Make a list of developed, make a matrix. Developed countries that don't have launch abilities. Germany, UK, it's amazing. Canada, Australia. How do these countries think they're going to be competitive over the next 10 years, 15, 20 years if they're not able to get things to space? Isn't it amazing that ChatGPT just said South Korea has it and then says it doesn't? I guess it's limited. But,
Well, all I know is North Korea launched something and took pictures of our White House and government properties. So, they must be telling the truth.
But isn't it part of it too? Like the countries that don't have it are probably just going to rely on the United States. Most of them are American allies, and so they'll rely on us to get things to space.
And so we rely on, and that means, and we rely on SpaceX, which means they rely on
the whole
space.
Western world relies on SpaceX for space, for the most part.
All right. Well, look, guys, without Dan, it's not nearly as much fun going through the news because we don't have nearly the background of information that guy does. But let's do this. I'll mention also that we printed what's not the right word? Printed 47 minted. Thank you. So 47,000 tokens, 49,700 tokens awarded for last month. You can go on your MetaMask or other wallet and use, you do the usual to go claim your reward if you own SKTL tokens. And
is there a video? Have you done one with the claim for anybody who might be watching that's unfamiliar? Was that like last year or 6 months ago or something? Or did that ever happen? Maybe it didn't happen.
I think I did it on here before.
That's right. You did it on your phone, I think.
Yeah, I did. And I showed it. I haven't claimed in the last 3 or 4 months. So I've got, thousands, probably hundreds of tokens, if not thousands of tokens that I need to claim. And next week before the call, I'll practice again to make sure I can do it on my phone and show you guys how to do it. But I'll do it again. It's a good idea, Cabana. I'll show everyone how you claim tokens. I actually, off the top of my head, it's been so many months, I don't remember how to do it. I'll have to pull open MetaMask and go pull up in the browser and go to, I think, a SKTLs.com page. But I'll figure it out before we come on next week and show you guys how to do it.
It's not as difficult as Cody makes it out to be. I'm just saying.
Well, why don't you do it for us then, Mr. Cabana?
No, I'm trying to, brand properly and, market the,
It is easy. It's like
there you go.
It's so less
easy.
than a minute to do it, but
exactly.
you have to do it. So
yes, it is.
Cabana,
it's still crypto in the end. So,
are you a Ravens fan? What's with the Ravens hoodie?
Yeah, I'm like local to the Ravens. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'm a fan of Lamar. Not so much the Ravens, but
yeah. I mean, it's them or the Redskins, and I was pretty much clothed out. As I popped out as a child, my grandmother clothed me in Dallas Cowboys gear. So that was just that's all I knew instead of the Redskins. So I definitely did not pick the Redskins. So and when the Ravens came along, I was like, cool. So.
Well, fair enough. I cheer against. Who's the owner of the Cowboys? Jerry Jones.
Jerry.
Any chance I get, I cheer against Jerry Jones. So that precludes me from ever being on a Dallas fan base. Yeah. All right, well, guys, that's a pretty easy call. Peace, love, and happiness. Thanks for being here. Appreciate Cabana. Thank you, Bryce. I'll see you guys on the flip.
Yeah,
Everybody.